with regards to the book, you mentioned that you wanted this to kind of make the argument for Islam being linked to spirituality. Can you expand on that?
Sure. So what I wanted to demonstrate with the book, and that's why I quoted and referenced so many different scholars from different centuries speaking about this topic, was that the pursuit of pleasure or the pursuit of sensuality, obviously as long as it's within the confines of marriage, it's a way to earn the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know that's something that we're all seeking. We're all seeking to enter paradise. We're all seeking to earn the pleasure of Allah. And people often disregard that. Yes, we speak about charity, we speak about fasting, but being good to your wife being good to her husband as well, obviously pleasuring your wife, pleasuring your husband, these are ways where you can earn divine rewards. And this is why a number of the scholars spoke about it at great length, because like Dr. Wafaa said, every couple is unique and different. And the idea of them speaking about erotology and the different ways to pleasure your wife or your husband was because they wanted to present different ways, that there's not just one way. And one thing which I really loved about the early Muslim scholars that spoke about this topic is that they were polymaths, as in there wasn't just someone that was an expert in Islamic law, jurisprudence. There wasn't someone that they looked into theology, they were looked into medicine, they looked into different, like it's a lot of the social sciences that we kind of revere today. And I think that's something that I think even with many of our, whether they're scholars or speakers, to take benefit into, you're not going to know everything, but you can learn some of the jewels from other social sciences and understand the psychology and these type of things. That this is something that again we can kind of learn from, and that's something which again, because one of the issues I think a lot of Muslims are troubled with is that we want the balance, like you mentioned earlier. We don't want to go to the one extreme of associating sex with just being about either procreation or it's painful, which Dr. Wafaa said, and we don't want to go to the other extreme, which we see in many secular societies, that hedonism. Yeah. And it's just about the pursuit of pleasure at all costs without having the restraint that we have to understand. Our religion teaches us we have to have sexual restraint. We can't just follow your desires and have relations with anyone and everyone that you want. And even within the confines of your bedroom, like it doesn't mean just because she's your wife, because some cultures teach that you've got access to your wife anytime and every time, and Islamically that's not the case. Exactly. So that's why it's about having that balance, and that's something which when I'm speaking about reviving the classic erotology tradition is because they spoke about the jewels of sexual pleasure and intimacy, but also spoke about the rewards that potentially you can get from it from a spiritual perspective. And this is something that not only can obviously increase the love between the partners, but also ultimately, inshallah, you can earn divine rewards with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for me, like I said, sensuality is not devoid of spirituality. They're interlinked, but at the same time, it doesn't mean you just pursue one and you neglect the other. So that's why it's important that, even as Dr. Wafaa mentioned, a number of modern day sexologists and sex therapists, because they come from even